Houston, we've had a problem.
And God said, let there be light. And there was light.
For years, we were told the moon was just a dead rock. No secrets, no mysteries, just a floating ball of dust and craters. But then, something turned up that changed everything. A satellite picked up an anomaly, something massive. Buried deep under the South Pole Aitken Basin is an impact scar so massive it makes the Grand Canyon look like a scratch. Scientists have found something. A gravitational anomaly. A buried mass the size of a small continent. Something dense, something heavy, something that shouldn't be there. And if you think that sounds ominous, just wait. The South Pole Aitken Basin is huge, over 2,000 kilometers across and deep enough to swallow Mount Everest whole. It's the biggest confirmed impact site in the entire solar system. Whatever hit the moon all those billions of years ago must have been an absolute monster. We're talking about an asteroid or something else so massive that it reshaped the very structure of the moon's interior. And now, thanks to NASA's Grail mission, we know there's still something down there. In 2019, scientists detected a bizarre mass lurking 300 kilometers beneath the surface. It weighs 2.18 quintillion kilograms. That's 5 times the mass of Hawaii's Big Island, just sitting there under the crust, waiting. So what the hell is it? One theory is that it's the core of whatever slammed into the moon eons ago. Maybe an iron-nickel asteroid smashed into the lunar surface, and instead of vaporizing on impact, its dense metallic core punched through and got stuck in the mantle. If that's true, we're talking about a gigantic chunk of alien metal hidden just beneath the moon's surface, an ancient planetary wreckage frozen in time. And let's be real, if it's metal, people are going to start asking whether it's just a chunk of asteroid or, well, something else. The second theory? It's even weirder. Some scientists think it could be a leftover from the moon's own formation. Back when the moon was a molten hellscape, dense oxides like ilmenite, rich in titanium and iron, may have sunk into the mantle and pooled in one spot. That's a nice, safe geological explanation. But let's be honest, it doesn't explain everything. Why would this particular region have such an extreme concentration of mass? Why does it sit directly beneath the largest impact crater in the solar system? Coincidence? The South Pole Aitken Basin is on the far side of the moon, the side we never see from Earth, the side that's perpetually hidden. That means radio signals don't work there unless you have a relay satellite. The biggest impact sank into the moon's mantle and got stuck. Yep, an alien core, not of this world, embedded deep under the surface, warping the moon's gravitational field to this day. Some simulations suggest this could actually happen. A metallic core that survived the impact, now hidden beneath layers of rock and dust, just waiting to be studied. If that's true, then this isn't just some random space debris. It's a piece of a planetary body that no longer exists. A ghost of a world that died long ago. There's another theory, one that doesn't involve a foreign object at all. Some scientists think this mass anomaly could be a byproduct of the moon's own formation. Billions of years ago, the moon's surface wasn't solid. It was a roiling ocean of molten rock, a hellscape of fire and chaos. As it cooled, heavier elements like titanium and iron sank into the mantle, forming dense pockets beneath the surface. If a massive concentration of these heavy oxides settled right beneath the SPA basin, that could explain the anomaly. And just when you think the moon couldn't get any stranger, China's Yutu-2 rover stumbles upon this. A bizarre, cube-shaped object looming on the horizon. Late 2021, China's Yutu-2 rover had been rolling across the far side of the moon, minding its own business, when its cameras picked up something that shouldn't be there. A geometric shape. Something that stood out against the barren, chaotic landscape. And because the universe has a sense of humor, it was sitting right on the lunar horizon, perfectly positioned to look artificial. The Chinese Space Agency's outreach channel, Our Space, called it the Mystery Hut. The name alone was enough to set the internet on fire. A structure on the far side of the moon, where nobody can see it, where signals don't work without a relay satellite. That wasn't going to go unnoticed. The image was grainy, distant, but undeniably weird. No atmospheric distortion to soften its edges. No tricks of shadow from swirling clouds. Just a crisp, boxy silhouette against the gray nothingness of the moon. A perfect little shape sitting out there, alone, on a dead world. It practically begged to be investigated. U2 too had to check it out. But here's the thing. Moving across the moon isn't like taking a Sunday drive. The rover had to crawl across a landscape riddled with craters, loose dust, and jagged rock fields that could trap or even wreck it. Every move had to be careful, deliberate, and since the rover runs on solar power, it had to wait out the brutal 2-week-long lunar nights in between. So the approach took weeks. With every new photo, the mystery deepened. The object looked just as strange up close as it had from a distance. No blurring, no sudden, obvious, "Oh, it's just a rock" moment. It still looked unnatural. Theories flew. A crashed probe? A remnant of some ancient impact? Something left behind? And then U2 finally got close enough to solve the mystery. It wasn't a hut. It wasn't a structure. It wasn't even remotely artificial. It was just a rock. A weirdly shaped, completely ordinary lunar boulder. From a certain angle, it looked boxy, geometric, almost designed. But in reality, it was as random and natural as any other chunk of moon debris. That should have been the end of it. Another case of the brain playing tricks, right? Another Face on Mars situation, where shadows and angles made something mundane look extraordinary? But then, as if mocking the whole situation, the rock revealed its true form. It wasn't just any rock. It looked like a rabbit. Lunar Trailblazer mission. A sleek, cutting-edge spacecraft designed to uncover the moon's most valuable resource: water. Not just any water. Ice hidden in the shadows of craters. Hydroxyl locked in the lunar soil. Fleeting molecules dancing across the surface, appearing and disappearing with the sun's rise and fall. A mission critical to NASA's Artemis program, because if we're serious about putting humans on the moon to stay, we're going to need water. For drinking, for oxygen, for rocket fuel. No water means no moon base, no Mars colony, no future beyond Earth. So naturally, they sent this little probe up there to figure out exactly how much lunar water is out there and where to find it. But Lunar Trailblazer wasn't some massive billion-dollar spacecraft with a full team dedicated just to it. No, it was part of NASA's Small Innovative Missions for Planetary Exploration program. Translation: smaller, cheaper, riskier. They wanted results, but they didn't want to break the bank. So they built it light, about the size of a dishwasher, barely 440 pounds. Just powerful enough to do the job without tipping into too expensive to fail territory. It launched on February 27th, 2025, hitching a ride on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket alongside other payloads, including the Nova C lander, Athena. That was the plan. Send it up, get it into position, start scanning the moon for water with 2 high-tech instruments. The Lunar Thermal Mapper to track temperature changes. The high-resolution volatiles and minerals. Moon Mapper to identify water in its different forms. Together, these tools could unravel the moon's water cycle like never before. But then something went wrong. NASA got the initial signal after separation. That first sweet confirmation that Lunar Trailblazer had made it. And then, silence. Weak signals. Unstable communication. A multi-million-dollar mission designed to map the moon's water was now barely talking back. Why? That's the question. Theories are already circulating. Antenna misalignment? Maybe it's pointed the wrong way, struggling to phone home. Power issues, solar panels not generating enough juice, systems flickering on and off. A software glitch, one bad command throwing everything off. Or maybe, just maybe, something else. Something NASA doesn't want to talk about yet. Right now, their engineers are scrambling. The Deep Space Network, those massive radio dishes spread across the globe, is locked onto the spacecraft, trying to re-establish a stable connection. They've dealt with worse before. They've revived silent spacecraft, pulled missions back from the brink. But every hour that passes without solid contact raises the stakes. Because if they can't talk to Lunar Trailblazer, it can't do its job. No data, no maps, no answers about what's really hiding in the moon's shadows. And if you thought the moon was the only celestial body keeping secrets, buckle up, because Saturn is hiding something even weirder. A hexagonal storm, perfectly symmetrical, massive, and completely unnatural looking. Think about that for a second. When's the last time you saw a storm form a shape so precise it looks like someone engineered it? Hurricanes on Earth are chaotic, swirling, and messy. Even Jupiter's Great Red Spot, a storm so big it could swallow our planet whole, is just a violent, ever-shifting oval. But Saturn decided to break the rules. Back in the early 1980s, when Voyager 1 and 2 flew past the planet, they spotted something bizarre at the North Pole. A massive, six-sided structure spinning in Saturn's upper atmosphere, encircling an even darker polar vortex at the center. Scientists did a double take. Was it real? A glitch? A trick of the light? No one knew. And because Voyager was just passing by, there wasn't much time to investigate. Saturn's hexagon became one of those weird space anomalies we just had to put a pin in for later. And then Cassini arrived. For over a decade, NASA's Cassini spacecraft orbited Saturn, watching, measuring, recording. And what did it find? The hexagon was still there, still spinning, still refusing to break apart or drift into chaos like any normal storm would. Cassini's instruments revealed details that only made the mystery deeper. Wind speeds inside the hexagon, over 200 miles per hour. Size, large enough to fit nearly 4 Earths inside. Depth, at least 180 miles down into Saturn's atmosphere. And the storm has been stable for decades, maybe even centuries. How? That's the million-dollar question. Saturn's atmosphere is a violent, churning hellscape of high-speed winds and extreme pressure. Its storms should be turbulent, irregular, constantly shifting. And yet somehow, this hexagon holds its shape like a perfectly balanced machine. One explanation: jet stream dynamics. Scientists have tried to replicate this effect in labs using spinning tanks of liquid. Under the right conditions, certain fluid motions can naturally form polygons. Seems reasonable enough, right? Except there's one problem. Those lab experiments don't explain why Saturn's hexagon doesn't change. They don't explain why it remains perfectly intact, decade after decade, while everything around it is in chaos. Another theory: vortex interactions. Small storms swirling around the hexagon's edges might be sculpting it, keeping it locked in place like gears in a cosmic mechanism. But again, why just Saturn? Why not Jupiter? Why not Neptune? And why, out of all possible shapes, does it settle on a perfect hexagon? And speaking of things that don't make sense, let's talk about Oumuamua. It showed up unannounced in 2017, slipping through our solar system like it had somewhere more important to be. No warning, no grand entrance, just a silent interstellar visitor cutting across our cosmic neighborhood. Astronomers barely caught it, spotted it on October 19th with the Pan-STARRS 1 telescope in Hawaii. If they had blinked, we might have missed it entirely. Now here's where things get really strange. Oumuamua wasn't just any space rock. It wasn't a standard-issue asteroid or a dusty, ice-spewing comet. No, this thing looked like nothing we'd ever seen before. For starters, its shape was all wrong. Long and thin, up to 10 times longer than it was wide. More like a cigar, or maybe a razor-thin slab. Ever seen an asteroid shaped like that? No? Neither has anyone else. Not in our solar system anyway. And it wasn't just its looks. Oumuamua was tumbling, not spinning neatly on an axis like an obedient asteroid. tumbling chaotically, as if something had smacked it hard, somewhere, sometime, long before it reached us. A collision? A gravitational slingshot gone wrong? Who knows? But it clearly wasn't a calm, minding its own business kind of traveler. Then there was the trajectory. Oumuamua didn't follow the rules. It didn't loop around the sun like an ordinary space rock bound by our star's gravity. No, it came screaming in from deep space, passed through, and shot back out. Its path? Hyperbolic, which for the non-astronomers in the room means it wasn't from here. It came from beyond, from the cold, endless void between the stars, probably from somewhere in the direction of the constellation Lyra. And now, it's already gone, heading toward Pegasus, never to return. Still with me? Good, because as Oumuamua was leaving, something impossible happened. It accelerated. That's right, it sped up. Now normal space rocks don't do that. Comets sometimes get a little push from outgassing. Heat from the sun vaporizes their ices, creating jets of gas that act like tiny rocket thrusters. But Oumuamua? No coma, no visible jets, no obvious reason for the sudden boost. Yet there it was, picking up speed like something or someone was nudging it along. Scientists scrambled for explanations. Maybe it was made of an exotic material that sublimated differently. Maybe it was covered in a highly reflective surface, allowing sunlight to push it like a solar sail. No one actually has answers to any of these questions. But maybe we were asking the wrong ones. Maybe the real mystery wasn't a single object passing through our solar system. Maybe the real question is, what else is out there that we haven't even noticed? Because while we're busy scanning the skies for rogue interstellar visitors, we're missing something even bigger. Or rather, something terrifyingly empty. They call it the Bhuta's Void, the Great Nothing. A name that should send a shiver down your spine. Because this isn't just some quiet patch of space. This is a gaping wound in the universe, stretching 330 million light-years across, a region so barren, so utterly devoid of galaxies, that it breaks every expectation of how the cosmos is supposed to work. And here's the part that should really bother you. We weren't even supposed to find it. Back in 1981, astronomer Robert Kirshner and his team weren't looking for anything unusual. They were just mapping galaxy redshifts, expecting to see a nice, even spread of cosmic structures. But instead, they stumbled onto nothing. A vast, almost incomprehensible void where thousands of galaxies should have been, but weren't. At first, maybe they thought it was a mistake, an error in the data, a glitch. Because a hole that big, that empty, it shouldn't exist. And yet, there it was, a region of space so absurdly vacant that it made other cosmic voids look crowded by comparison. You need some perspective? The Milky Way, our entire galaxy, is 100,000 light-years across. The local group, which includes Andromeda and our neighboring galaxies, is about 10 million light-years wide. The Bhuta's Void, 330 million light-years across. That's over 3,000 times the size of our galaxy. You could fit entire superclusters of galaxies in there and still have room left over. And yet, when astronomers counted what was actually inside this region, they found about 60 galaxies. That's it. In a volume of space where there should have been 2,000. At this point, you should be asking the only logical question: what the hell happened here? Because this isn't just a case of bad luck. Space isn't supposed to work this way. Galaxies aren't randomly scattered. They form a massive interconnected web, bound together by dark matter and the gravity of untold trillions of stars. Even the emptier regions of the universe still have something in them. But this is like looking at a city skyline and finding a crater the size of a continent where skyscrapers should be. A hole in the very fabric of the cosmos. Oh, and here's a thought for you. Imagine being inside it. Imagine living in one of those 60 galaxies, floating in the middle of the void. Your night sky? Empty. No dazzling view of countless distant galaxies. No cosmic neighbors a few million light years away. Just the cold, black nothingness stretching out in every direction. You might not even realize you were part of a larger universe at all, because from where you are, there wouldn't be any proof. So how did the Bootes void get this way? Astronomers, of course, have their theories. Some think it formed from the slow merging of smaller voids, like bubbles combining into one vast, lightless chasm. Others point to dark energy, the mysterious force accelerating the universe's expansion, as a potential culprit. Maybe it stretched the void over billions of years, pushing galaxies apart until almost nothing was left. The universe has other anomalies, other phenomena that shouldn't exist. And one of them? It doesn't hide like the Bootes void. No, this one glows. Astronomers call them Lyman alpha blobs. But let's be real. That's just a label for something they don't fully understand. Because these things aren't just weird. They're impossible. Vast, glowing clouds of hydrogen, spanning hundreds of thousands of light years, sitting out there like cosmic beacons. Or maybe warnings. They were first spotted in the year 2000, like someone had flipped a switch, and suddenly, there they were. Charles Steidl and his team were mapping distant galaxies when they stumbled onto something they weren't expecting. Not a star, not a galaxy, just a massive eerie cloud of hydrogen radiation burning in the dark. The biggest one they found, LAB1, was 300,000 light-years wide. That's 3 times the size of the Milky Way. It wasn't anywhere close. This thing was 11.5 billion light-years away, shining at us from a time when the universe was just a toddler, barely 2.3 billion years old. Let that sink in. A colossal glowing structure in an era where the first galaxies were barely pulling themselves together. Scientists, of course, have their explanations, theories, models, attempts to make sense of something that shouldn't be possible. They'll tell you it's just hydrogen, excited by cosmic activity, that it's nothing to worry about. But let's break that down, shall we? Because the more you dig, the more unbelievable this gets. For starters, these things are way too bright. When hydrogen gas releases Lyman alpha radiation, it usually needs a lot of energy to do it. So where's that energy coming from? Some say these clouds are parked next to hyperactive galaxies, feeding off young stars as they burn through their chaotic birth phases. Others insist they're powered by hidden, supermassive black holes, active galactic nuclei blasting out radiation, lighting up the surrounding gas like a cosmic neon sign. There's even a theory that these blobs are the leftover bones of galaxies still forming, collapsing clouds of primordial gas cooling down from the inferno of creation. Maybe the Lyman alpha blobs aren't the remnants of something long gone, but the footprints of something still watching. But hey, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's stick to what we do know. Let's talk about something equally strange, equally out of place, something lurking in the dirt of another planet. Let's talk about Zebra Rock. Oh, you've heard of it? The pretty striped stone from Western Australia? That charming little 670 million year old relic shaped by some nice, boring geological process? Sure, that's what they tell you. That it's just iron-rich sediment laid down in ancient waters, pressed into place by time. But if that's true, if that's all there is to it, then someone explain this. NASA's Perseverance rover just found another one. Not in Australia. Not on Earth. On Mars. Did you hear about that? Probably not. They slipped it into the reports, buried under technical jargon, like it's just another rock. Just another day on the red planet. But here's the problem. It's not just another rock. It shouldn't be there. A striped black and white stone sitting in Jezero Crater, sticking out like it wants to be noticed. They named it Freya Castle, probably hoping the fancy name would distract from the real question. What the hell is it doing there? The original zebra rock, the one we do know about, is unique. Found almost exclusively in the Kimberley region of Australia, it's a rare, one-of-a-kind formation. Scientists say it came from shallow, iron-rich water, a slow buildup of minerals over time shaped by the prehistoric world. Fine, that's all well and good. But Mars? Mars doesn't have lakes like that. It doesn't have the same chemistry, the same slow, delicate layering process. So where did this thing come from? NASA, of course, has its theories. The usual suspects: volcanic rock, maybe cooled in phases, its stripes just mineral deposits forming at different rates. Or maybe it's metamorphic, heat and pressure twisting it into a banded mystery. Maybe it rolled down from higher ground, an interplanetary traveler tumbling into the rover's path. Sounds nice, doesn't it? A tidy explanation. But let's be real. If Earth's zebra rock is already rare, already an anomaly, what are the odds that a rock with a nearly identical striped pattern just happens to show up on Mars? A planet where nothing like it has been seen before? While we're busy trying to wrap our heads around alien zebra rock, something else is tearing through our atmosphere. Something bright and fast called blue jet lightning. It was caught in 2021, shooting upward from a storm cloud into the stratosphere. Not the way it was captured from space, where we never should have seen it. A bolt of pure energy, surging not down to Earth, but away from it. Think about that for a second. Lightning is supposed to go toward the ground, to find the path of least resistance, to strike us. But blue jets? They don't follow the rules. They launch themselves upward, 50 kilometers up, into the stratosphere. And for what? Just to fizzle out? To disappear into nothing? That's what they want you to believe. That it's just ionized nitrogen, glowing blue, burning out in a fraction of a second. Just another transient luminous event, a TLE if you want to sound official. But blue jets aren't alone. They travel with other anomalies, other strange, barely understood flashes of energy. The ISS didn't just catch the blue jet, it caught 5 intense flashes right before it, as if something was building up, charging the air, getting ready for something bigger. And right as that jet took off, another phenomenon appeared. Something called an ELV. You ever heard of those? Thought not. They're not exactly common knowledge. ELVs aren't lightning. They aren't storms. They're rings of light that explode into existence at the bottom of the ionosphere, stretching out in giant circles in the blink of an eye. A flash so fast, so high up, that nobody on Earth ever sees them. They last 30 microseconds. You can't blink that fast. You wouldn't even know they were there. But they are there. The ISS saw it all, an electrical pulse racing upward, a blue jet chasing it into the sky, and an ELV lighting up the atmosphere like a cosmic ripple. And yet, no one's asking the real question. No one's wondering why it happens. Why Earth's electrical systems are hurling energy into space instead of keeping it down here. You've heard of Betelgeuse, right? That massive red supergiant in Orion? The one so big that if you swapped it with the sun, it would swallow Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, probably Jupiter too, just for fun? Yeah, that Betelgeuse. The same star that, between 2019 and 2020, decided to dim, not a little, not a flicker, but by a staggering 35%. A star that should be steady, that should be behaving, suddenly lost a third of its glow. And the best part? Nobody knew why. Theories flew around like wild conspiracy posts. It was about to go supernova. It was collapsing. We were about to witness the cosmic event of the millennium. Astronomers were holding their breath, watching, waiting, because if Betelgeuse did explode, we'd see it light up the sky so brightly that for weeks it would outshine the moon. Imagine that. A second sun hanging in the night sky. Shadows cast at midnight. No darkness, just pure, unstoppable energy ripping through the cosmos. But then, something weird happened. It didn't explode. Instead, Betelgeuse just came back. The light returned. The crisis was over. The star shrugged like nothing happened. And suddenly, scientists had an explanation. Oh, dust blocked the light, they said. It was a surface mass ejection, they claimed. The star coughed out some material, and it formed a cloud, dimming the light until it cleared up again. Simple, right? Except for one little problem. We've been watching Betelgeuse for centuries. We know it fluctuates, but never like this. Never a drop this severe. Never a change so drastic that astronomers around the world panicked, thinking we were about to witness a once-in-a-lifetime explosion. And now? Now we're just supposed to believe that this was a fluke? Betelgeuse ejected a ridiculous amount of material, a surface mass ejection so intense it dwarfed anything our own sun has ever done. We're talking several times the mass of the moon hurled into space, forming a dust cloud big enough to choke the light of a dying star. And yet we're told this is normal, that Betelgeuse isn't unstable, that we shouldn't be watching our cosmic backyard a little more closely? Sure. Because here's the thing. Betelgeuse will go supernova. Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe not in 100 years. But when it does, we won't just be spectators. That explosion is coming our way. A shockwave of particles. A burst of radiation that will slam into the heliosphere like a freight train. And if scientists are wrong, if the Great Dimming was more than just a dust cloud, then maybe we're closer to that cosmic light show than we think. What else do you think is hiding out in space? Maybe NASA is trying to hide things from us.